Good afternoon, Ruzza. Okay, we have social study lesson and homework. Today we will continue about our Celtic folk tale, and we will read a story that is named Fair Exchange. Exchange يعني تبادل يعني أعطيك شغلة وتعطيني شغلة ثانية. Fair يعني it's fair when you say this is not fair, this is fair. You know this word, you always use it, يعني عادل. So let's start. Once there was a young lass who lived alone with her wee baby. She loved her little one above all things, and when she had to go and harvest go and harvest the fields to earn her bread, she would bring her little baby. Harvest the fields. Harvest يعني يحصد. لما الواحد يزرع بالحقل، لما يطلع النبات لما يطلع they go and harvest it يعني لما ينمو يشيلوه من المزرعة ويبيعوه. So she loved her baby so much, so when she went to harvest the field, she took her baby with her. And she would place him in the shade of a fine oak tree and work nearby listening for his cooing and gurgling. كانت تحطه بالظل مال الشجرة. One day the lass heard a baby crying fitfully under the oak tree. She quickly ran to him, only to find that her child was no longer there. In the place of her sweet apple-cheeked baby, there was a sickly, pale child who screamed and wailed as though starving for his very life. The lass ran all through the fields, asking everyone if they had seen her round little boy, but no one had, and no one had seen what happened to him. Finally, the lass returned to the unhappy little one, and taking pity on him, she nursed him. فيوم من الأيام هنا دا يقولون لما كانت بالمزرعة فجأة قامت تسمع صوت عياط جاهل. لما راحت شافت جاهل هيجي وجهه شاحب ما بيه لون وبس يصيح ويعيط وجاهلها اختفى. فلما سألت وين الجاهل مالها ما حد يعرف وين راح، فأشفقت على الجاهل الثاني وقامت تداريه. Weeks went by and still there was no sign of her own plump, sweet-natured boy. Your little boy was taken by the fairy folk. The townspeople sit and whisper, "You must get rid of the changeling they left in his place, if you are ever to get your own dear one back." But the lass could not find it in her heart to get herself of the poor thin child had been left behind. So the people in the town told this woman that if you want your child back, you have to get rid of the thin child that was crying. يعني قالوا لها الفيري تيلز، الفيريز يعني الساحرات أخذوا الطفل مالك والطوش هذا الضعيف، عمود يرجع الطفل مالك لازم تذبين الجاهل الثاني. بس هي قلبها طيب ما قدرت تذبه. Instead, she cared for him as if he were his own. It wasn't long before the child began to grow into a fine picture of a child. Where he was once feathered hair and slight, he now had great tufts of golden locks and was round and sturdy as her little lad had been. But the lass never forgot her sweet baby, and after months had passed, decided the time had come to gain her son back. مو قامت تداريه، كبر وصار يشبه طفلها اللي اختفى. بس في يوم من الأيام قامت قالت لازم أرجع ابني. She took the child by the hand and went with him to the old wise woman on the edge of her town. Her cottage يعني كوخ صغير, was far away and it took most of the day to find it. When she did arrive, the lass was tired and sat by the old woman's fire. Tell me now, may I get my child back? The lass asked the old woman. Well, lass, if the truth to be told, I don't see the fairy folk, they don't have hearts, no hearts at all, so begging and pleading will have no effect on them. I won't plead. All I want is a fair exchange, the lass said solemnly. But I will get my baby back, that much I know, and I'll do it with or without your help. I'd be grateful, though, for any aid you'd give me. With that, the old woman laughed out loud. Well, you are a spirited one, I'll give you that. Do you know the dangers, though, lass? Once you're at the fairies' hill, you're under their power. They can keep you under their hill forever, or worse. The lass only thought of her little boy and said, I know the dangers. I'm not afraid. The woman looked at her and said, You rest here then. At May Eve, they come out of their hill and ride about. She pointed over the moor to a hill in the distance. They have been good enough neighbors to me. Just take care not to anger the queen, and perhaps you will fare well yet. So the old lady told her, If you are fighting for your little boy, it is a dangerous fight, because the fairies could kill you. But the mother didn't care and she wanted her child back. So she went. So the lass stayed with the old woman, and on May Eve she set on to camp by the fairy hill. Night came on, and the child slept beside the lass. All at once the lass was startled by the sound of starry bells, and there before her rode a host of fairy folk, the queen on her great steed leading the band. The lass jumped up and called out, Halt, fair queen! So when she was sleeping, this fairy came all of a sudden in front of her, and she told her, Halt, halt يعني stop, fair queen. Fair يعني عادلة, queen, you know what's queen. The queen's horse reared high, and then cold bright eyes of the queen's fell upon the lass. She raised her hands as if to strike her and roared, Who dares to bar the queen's path? Who dares to bar the queen's path? Bar يعني يقطع الطريق, يعني هي قمزت عليها لما شافتها الأماية وقطعت طريقها. فالكوين عصبت إنه how dare you. The lass cried out, Wait, I have a gift for you. The queen paused. A gift? Yes, of the finest sort. With that, the lad awoke and cried out. The queen stopped and looked at him queerly. And this is your gift to me? Of a sort, my queen. I found this fine boy under a great oak tree at harvest. He was not the strapling lad you see now, but, but I took him home, fed him with what little I had, and cared for him well. Now he is strong and healthy. I did this as a favor to you to one of your women. فقالت لها الهدية اللي أريد أعطيك إياها الجاهل اللي من القرايب مالتك التركوه هنا كان كلش ضعيف فأنا أخذته البيت ووكلته وكبرته فهاي الهدية. The queen looked at the boy. This is my son, and yes, he is handsome and healthy. I will take him. And she motioned for the folk to go get him. Wait, said the lass. And the queen paused. I ask for a fair exchange in return. I want my own son back. You remember him, don't you? The queen nodded and glared at the lass. Why should I do what you ask? Don't you know that I could take both of you and keep you here forever? I could just take him if it pleases me. So الأماي قالت لها ما راح أعطيك الجاهل مالك إلا ترجعي لي الطفل مالي. فالكوين قالت لها وليش يعني لازم أسمع كلامش، أنا كلش قوية أقدر أخذ اثنيناتكم وأسجنكم. Yes, I know this, answered the lass, but I have heard that the fairy folk repay favors well. I have cared for your son when I did not have to. All I ask is a son for a son. That is fair. Hmm, said the queen. You are a brave one, aren't you? I admire that. You may have your son. She gestured once again to those behind her who moved quickly away. They returned with the lass's own little boy, whom she grabbed quickly and held tightly to her. So the queen يعني قالت لها انت شجاعة وانت fair، فراح رجعلش الابن مالك. Go then, the queen said, as she lifted her own boy onto her horse. You have done well by this boy of mine. Know this, your son carries with him the prosperity to the fairy folk. Peace and good fortune shall follow you, both for the rest of your days. With that, the queen spurred her horse around, and the fairy folk were gone. And so it was. The lass and her son lived happily with the blessings of the fairy folk upon them from that day forward. So رجع لها الطفل مالها وعاشوا عيشة سعيدة. شوف هسه هذا الهومورك هذا. Okay, first question in the box below, draw a picture from the story. Fair exchange. So you can draw any picture here. Maybe you want to draw the queen. She's like a butterfly with a woman. So you can draw it here. Then this question, like every time, you have to write this paragraph or sentence here. Good. Sorry. Use good handwriting, capitals and punctuation and full stops. Okay. Okay. How did the lass get her son back? شلون رجعت ابنها? If you remember from the story, she made a fair exchange with the queen. She gave her son back. Okay? Do you feel she was brave? Why or why not? Yes, she was brave because the queen could kill her or put her in prison, but she faced her anyway. And yes, she was brave because she went and spoke with the queen and demanded her son back. Why do you think the queen exchanged the babies? Because the queen is fair and the lady took care of her son. Okay? Bye bye.